Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, I am sincerely fired up for you to meet today's guest. He's joining us on the Reawaken America tour because he's been referred to me by countless people, and he is a man who has fully devoted himself to studying the Bible and breaking down the Bible as it relates to today. He breaks down the Bible, yes, but the Bible is a book that was inspired by God. And in that book, there's books like Daniel, there's books like Revelation, there's books like Isaiah. There's a lot of prophetic books in the Bible. Matthew chapter 24, a lot of books that prophesy about the future. And we find ourselves in a time where you're seeing the cost of goods and services. In Oklahoma, I know the cost of gas, the cost of meat, the cost of food is going up dramatically, where you're seeing that the inflation rate, the official inflation rate is listed at 7%, yet the cost of gas is doubling. The cost of building a new home is going up by 30%. The cost of everything is going up. A lot of people are saying, who can we trust? And I recommend that everybody out there, you open up your Bible and you really dive down in deep into the irrefutable Word of God to find the truth there. And as you're listening to today's show, if you want to follow along the notes corresponding with today's interview with Bo Polney, you want to go to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com/gold 2020. That's timetofreeamerica.com/gold 2020. And I'll be taking notes as Bo Polney takes us through his presentation today. With that being said, Bo Polney, welcome to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Oh, Clay, what an absolute pleasure. I sincerely love speaking with you. You are one of the most enjoyable people to speak with. Really appreciate that you want to take the time to understand where we are in terms of time within the Bible. So thank you for having me here. And I do want to add to what you said. See, like when you go back in the Bible, there were 12 tribes of Israel. I'm sure you know that, right? One of the tribes were the tribe of Issachar. That tribe was the tribe that understood the times and the seasons.
The times and the seasons. Now, if you had to, just before, if we go to timetofreeamerica.com/gold 2020 and we download today's presentation, what page of the PDF do you want us to go to, Bo, to follow along with you?
Right. So I thought we can kind of continue from where we left off, and I've moved some of the slides around. So make sure your viewers have the new updated PDF link. We're going to start at page 9 because we're going to talk about the times and the seasons in today's presentation of where we are within the Bible, because the Bible was written 2,000 years ago for a purpose. It talks about events, and there's so much detail in the Bible, but there's timelines in the Bible. That's the beautiful part. And when you start understanding the timelines, you can look backwards, and well, first off, it's important to look backward to see where we are today. And then you want to take those timelines and look at them forwards. And we can actually have a very good understanding, Clay, of where we are today, what's supposed to happen, and how incredible this year is supposed to be. Like, this year is supposed to be truly one of the greatest move of God's Spirit ever, aside from probably creation in the history of the world. We're going to see things that we can't even imagine what's supposed to go down and occur this year. And so today, we're actually going to talk about timelines. We're going to discuss timelines because it's so important. But the essence of 2022 is on page 1, and it's called The Great. It's the great exposure, the great removal, the great fall, the great judgment, the great overturning, the great death, the great exodus, the great rebirth, and the great wealth transfer. So all of those things, Clay, are supposed to go down this year, and it's based on the essence of what happened when Jesus went into the temple. Page 9. What did he do to the money changers, Clay? He flipped the tables on them. So, and also we have Belshazzar. It was written many tekel upsharsim, right? So many was your days are numbered, and tekel, you know what tekel means? You've been weighed in the balances and found wanting. In other words, you've tipped the scales and God's about to tip them on you. So that's the essence of page 9, when we specifically are stating that God's about to flip the tables here on these money changers. These money changers have absolutely destroyed the world more better word, they've been controlling the world with the money. So, you know, the saying is follow the money. If you want to know who did what and how did it all go down, follow the money, right?
Right. Well, I'm gonna read this to people out there just to. I'm assuming that, and please understand this, folks. I'm not saying anybody's ignorant. I'm just saying we collectively as a culture have a biblical ignorance. And so I'm going to read from Matthew chapter 21, verse 12 through 13, referencing the flipping of the money changers, the flipping of the tables. It says, "And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all of them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves, and said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves." That right there is very different than the Jesus that we are taught in many churches today. There's kind of taught about effeminate Jesus. You know, Jesus would never offend anybody. You know, Jesus would.
He's a baby. He's a little baby.
There's a lot of that though. There's a lot of politically correct Jesus. Now, everybody out there, if you don't believe in, you know, real Jesus, we've kind of dumbed it down to make it more, you know, kind of. I mean this though, and so people when you think about Jesus flipping the tables of the money changers, how you see God, in my opinion,
this is one man walking in the temple, literally flipping the tables and all the money changers. Clay, that's the cool part.
All.
Okay,
back to you, Bo.
So that took a lot of guts to do that. That wasn't one guy's table. No. The money changers, all of them. He was flipping. He was just opening up cages, letting the animals out. It was insane. And you know what? He wasn't afraid. Why? Because he's God, right? And so nothing even happened to him at the end of that whole thing. So this is the essence of what's happening. We're at a point in our world where they've taken money. We've talked about this in our prior presentations. They've detached it from, there's zero relationship with the US dollar or any money for that reason, and gold. So there's no correlation with it whatsoever. So it's complete fiat money.
Quick interjection here. I know somebody out there. I just lost somebody out there. I want to make sure we didn't lose anybody there. I'm going to put a link, okay, to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, where they actually show the amount of currency in circulation. If you want to look it up yourself, folks, you can type into Google or DuckDuckGo. Just type in currency in circulation, St. Louis. You can see the St. Louis Fed, where they track the amount of currency in circulation. Bo, with the fiat currency, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but the fiat currency is a currency via decree, meaning a currency backed by no actual gold standard or any other kind of standard. And the government has simply been printing epic amounts of money. And if you simply will click on the link, folks, you can see the government has printed more money in the past 18 months than in the entire history of the United States. It is absolutely epic what is happening here with the complete destruction of the fiat currency, which is why people always ask me, they say, Clay, do you buy gold and silver? Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely am a big believer of that. What I believe, and this is just taught to me from a banker who, he owns a bank, is he said, hey, Clay, you need to take a quarter of your cash. And I talked to this guy when I was finally making some decent money. And I said, I'm 26 years old. What should I do with cash? He said, Clay, because there's fiat currency, you need to take a quarter of your cash and buy gold and silver, take a quarter of your cash and buy real estate from emotional people that desperately need to sell their real estate, and take the other half and keep cash on hand. And I said, you own a bank. Why do you not put your money in your own bank? He says, because of fiat currency. I said, what's fiat currency? He says, read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Folks, if you read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But all I could say, I don't have a promo code set up or anything, but the Gold Line is the company my wife and I bought from for years. Gold Line is who we've bought from for years. The other organization that we currently buy gold and silver from is BH-PM.com, BH-PM.com. Quick question for you, Bo, and then we'll go back into your notes here. Do you personally buy gold, silver? Do you do these things?
Every time there's a few extra dollars in my account, that's all my, we basically put in orders every single month to go buy more silver. So okay. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, back to you.
Yeah, I'm 100% invested in silver, very little in gold, almost
really?
95% in silver, and the other half would be cryptocurrencies. So that's what I've done, and that's where that's what I've done over the past 4 or 5 years now.
How much has silver gone up since you started buying silver as a percent?
Well, silver is on lockdown. Okay, so here's the thing to understand, Clay. The moment silver goes up in value, it's the bank killer. So It will, when silver starts going up $1, when it breaks $26 and it starts going up $1, it's going to be destroying the banks by billions of dollars every second. So what's going to happen here in 2022 is as silver explodes, it's going to take down the banks. So the banks that you know are going to go upside down, or they're going to go bye-bye, because silver is tied in with God's money directly, gold and silver. You know, Haggai 2:8, the gold, the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. So it's extremely important to understand is that silver, to answer your question, if it goes up, okay, which they can, because if silver had value, then the dollar would not. Do you understand? So the dollar has value, therefore silver can have value. So silver, since I bought it, it's gone up. You know, I bought a whole bunch at $13, $14, $15. So it's 20 something, 25 or 24 today. It's gone up, but that's nothing. What I'm waiting for is the biblical intervention of God, is the hand of God that is going to set silver on rocket fuel, and it is absolutely going to lift and take off and never look back. And when you see that moment in time, Clay, which is here within the next few months, you're going to see the birth of the new era here on earth. And we're going to talk about that today in today's presentation. I'll give you when. I'm going to give you that information today, and you're going to know when to expect this to go down. And when this event happens, God's kingdom will officially be birthed here on earth. The financial system, as you know it, will change forever. And all hell breaks loose on these people who have done what they've done.
What is your biblical basis for believing what you believe?
Oh, I got a whole bunch of it. We're going to go through.
Okay, we'll go back to you.
Okay, so page 10. So I'm going to talk about, so back to Jesus, because Jesus is like the greatest, right? You know, it's like he's not, you know, when he comes back, he's not come back as a baby. No, he's come back with a sword and an army. So people need to understand how this plays out, because he ain't coming back as a baby. I promise you that. He's coming back as a Lion of Judah. So it's going to be, you know, it's really exciting times that we're living for here. So Jesus then walks into the temple and into the synagogue, right? And he reads this. This is so cool because he actually stops before he finishes the last sentence. He goes, and this is Isaiah 61. He says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed." Period. He didn't continue because it wasn't time yet. Now I'm going to finish the last sentence. "To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance." So we are in the 50-year Jubilee cycle, which began on Rosh Hashanah, September 6th. So we consider New Year January 1st, okay? God's New Year is Rosh Hashanah. The last Rosh Hashanah was September 6th of 2021. So as of September, if you bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a golden Jubilee of September 6th, 2021 to September 24th, 2022. That is an entire year of Jubilee. So that is where we are right now. Now, this is what some new revelation that I just got when I was at a conference this weekend with a few prophets. And it was really cool because of all the Holy Spirit that was in the room. I got a download, which was truly, I think, fantastic, because it ties in directly with what's about to happen here, Clay.
Now, so you're saying, just real quick here, I want to make sure we're getting this. I have invited you to be on this show. You have not reached out to me asking to be on this show repeatedly. I've asked you to be on the show because you always cite everything in scripture. Also, you're not trying to sell anything today. And I just want to be very clear. At the end of today's presentation, Bo, you're not saying, and if you'll go to yadayada.com and pay $87 a month, you can learn why are you doing this? What motivates you to do this research?
God asked me to do it, so I'm doing it. He's blessed me, he's blessed me and my wife. He showed me his patterns, so I understand how his patterns work. Patterns are cycles. So like a circle is 360 degrees, right? But so is a biblical year, 360 days. So everything that God does is, when God spoke, it was a wave, right? So everything is cyclical cycles. He explained to me much of how his patterns and cycles work. So I would apply the patterns of his cycles to gold and silver, and specifically gold, and I was able to understand how the gold cycle works. So now I understand how gold patterns and how it works its way into the future and how it's patterning out into years forward. I apply the same patterns into cryptocurrencies, and we've done extremely well understanding what was going to happen with cryptocurrencies. So we got involved several years ago. We bought Bitcoin at 400. Now it's in the 35 to 40 range. So, we've done very well. So, I don't chase money. Money just kind of shows up. And my wife and I have been blessed. So now God's asked me to, he's called me through one of the prophets as analyst of time. I didn't know what I do. I have no idea for it. But then I was called an analyst of time by one of the prophets. And I'm like, hey, that makes a lot of sense, because that's kind of what I do. I analyze time. That's called, the Ishtar anointing. So the tribe of Ishtar. So that's it. I don't need anybody to buy anything that I have, because I know first off, we're financially taken care of. Number two is I've bought so much precious metals. I know it's coming. So there's nothing anybody could give me financially that would change how I would operate. I hope that answers your question, because I know what's about to happen with precious metals. I'm already invested in crypto. So there's nothing to sell. If people want, my patterns, yeah, they can go to my website. You can get, I can provide you the cryptocurrency patterns. But ultimately, it doesn't matter to me, because I've got them, and I've been doing this for quite a long time already. So I hope that answers your question, Clay.
Absolutely. Okay, back to you there. Sorry to interrupt your flow.
So that takes me to what I just got this weekend. So the most important thing is the timing of this new era. And it was really interesting, because I was on Elijah's stream last November, and a day before I was on there, Donna Rigney which I met this weekend actually at the conference in Florida. She actually, this is kind of when it hit me. I'm like, I was looking at her, and then I got a download. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So it's really interesting, because she was talking about the birth of a new era. So she's been talking about this for a while. I've been talking about she was talking about a birth. And so she didn't say anything else. She said birth, a new birth. I'm like, okay, well, I knew what that was, because for 3 years I've been talking about a new era that's about to hit the world. And so I'm like trying to add up, doing the math. And then I came to realize, wait a second, then I'm like, let's talk about childbirth, right? So if you go to page 11, this is really fascinating, because childbirth, you and I know, because we both have kids, Clay, it's 9 months.
Yep.
So if an era is to be birthed, it won't be any different, because what happens spiritually in the natural, it's the same. Okay. So if an era is to be birthed, it's to be birthed based on the birth of a child. That will be 9 months. Okay. So if we look, so in the year of Jubilee, so God's 50th year began, or the year of Jubilee began on Rosh Hashanah, September 6th. So September 6th through October 6th will be month 1. So you do the math, and that takes you to the 9th month, starts at May 5th and goes to June 3rd. So the new era is expected to be birthed this year in May.
In May.
And let me tell you about May. Okay. May is going to be crazy, Clay. These people, because I need to explain to you, now we're going to get into that, why that's so important. So let's go to page 12, and you're going to start to gather why May is going to be so historic. So then we go, so these are pivots. So I'm sure you've heard of the word Tesla, okay? Yep. Tesla had nothing to do with electric cars. We're talking Tesla, he created anti-gravity. All right, so it's called Tesla technology. And he basically had a Tesla coil that basically could create energy out of virtually nothing. And so, but he was using it, in the ways he created it was the use of what's called vortex math. So that's on page 12. Vortex math basically describes 3 key months. It's the 3 key numbers, 3, 6, and 9. And when you apply those numbers to months, it gets really cool, because basically those numbers represents so the numbers 3, 6, and 9, they are not physical numbers, but they govern the physical world on a quantum level, with the number 9 being the top of the food chain. So as of November, so the new year started September. November is when Cuomo basically got kicked out of CNN. The news media began to fall. February, all heck's about to break loose, which is this month. But I believe it's around the 20th of February. I'll show you why in a few minutes. And then that leads us into 3 more months forward, which is completion of the 9-month cycle. So this is literally the hand of God is about to appear. The glory, when I say hand, I mean the glory. When the glory appears, it literally does 2 things, Clay. It's glorious for us. It depends what side of the fence you sit on. And it's complete, utter destruction for the ones that went against God. And so I take you to page 13, and this will describe to you, give you an example of what I'm describing. Okay. So I've talked to your show before, on your show before, about the Exodus, right? So you know that the United States is replaying the cycle of Exodus. Okay. We've talked about this because it was the Mayflower landed 400 years ago, and Exodus was 400 years, and then Moses shows up and takes them out of out of bondage. Okay. So if we run the Passover cycle, because we know what happened on Passover, when Passover ended, what did Pharaoh do with Israel? He released them, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to apply that cycle. So beginning on April 16th, Passover begins. Passover ends on April 23rd. April 23rd is the last day of Passover. It ends. The next day would be when Pharaoh released. So that was all the firstborn died that night. So that morning, the next day, that will be equate to April 24th, Pharaoh releases Israel. They leave to go to the Red Sea. It takes them 20 days to get there if you read Exodus 14, 21 through 31. So it's right in Exodus 14. It says it takes 20 days to get there. Once they get there, that would equate to May 14th of 2022. That will be the day that God closed the Red Sea on Pharaoh and his army, and they were utterly destroyed and finished. So May 14th of this year is supposed to be the start of the new year. Now, I want to preface that with no one knows the day or the hour. So could I be off by a day or two or three? Possibly. I'm showing you the mathematical calculation based on Exodus, stating that May 14th of this year is supposed to be historic. What day and hour it precisely will end up being, we're going to find out. But I'm telling you, May is going to be a month that the world will never forget.
What does that look like for you on the practical level? If you're, the average listener, you're a truck driver, you're a cabinet installer, you cut hair for a living, you're a doctor, dentist, lawyer, college student, what's going to happen for them?
Well, see, this is on May 14th, or say middle of May. That is the time when the Red Sea closed. Israel was on the other side. Whatever was left of Pharaoh's army is on the other side, and they're literally separated by the sea. In other words, it marked a point of finished. It marked a point of completion. So what does it look like? Well, we're going to find out, because your guess is as good as mine, but I can tell you that you're friends with Lance Wallnau. You've had him on your show several times. Okay. Lance speaks of the 7 hills. And I'm not sure if you know what he described by those 7 hills, but the 7 hills I've got. So to kind of answer your question in detail here. So the 7 hills, if you quickly shoot forward to page 45. So on page 45, 7 hills are basically described as hills, and the tops of each hill is the gate to hell. Okay. What happens is, if you think a triangle, right? So the people in the hill are the people. That's just the people working for that entity. If it's the church, the family, if it's the educational system, if it's for the government, right? That's the people. The very top of it is the very apex, the very tip is the gate to hell. In other words, that's the people who are controlling the hill. So to answer your question, right now, these 7 gates, when Lance has described it pretty well, but basically it's the financial system, which number one is, that's what I label as number one, because with a financial system, the money that they create out of thin air now, okay, they can control the church with the 501c3s. They control the family. They've been making everybody go to work. They want to control the family and the kids now by the state. They control the education system. They control the government, the military. They control the media, the social media, and arts and entertainment. So they control everything. So now, to answer your question, when you destroy the financial system, when the dollar blows up, when the financial system breaks, what ends up happening is that if you go to page 46, you get things that have been hidden for generations get exposed. So we're about to find out about free energy. We're about to find out about anti-gravity. Okay, if you go to the next page.
Okay, time out real quick here.
Okay.
Let's get into Tesla for a second, just don't want to lose anybody. Okay.
Okay.
There are many documentaries that anybody can watch right now about Tesla. And when you discover the research of Tesla, it is truly remarkable, the technology this guy invented. Let me just give some examples. He was working on buildings that could self-power themselves infinitely. Tesla was a guy who, his death is very mysterious. It's, how did he die? How did he die? All researchers believe that he actually died in a room by himself. But his experiments, his research, his inventions, mysteriously, they can't really seem to figure out where they went. And so, but he had all this incredible research with him. He kept it. He kind of worked in this closet where he kept all this stuff, and then his stuff disappeared. No one really found it. And his technology, his research, his drawings, his renderings, his patents, his discussions were all for a technology that would make what you're saying not crazy. So I encourage people to do a deep dive on DuckDuckGo and look for Tesla documentaries to validate what you're saying. Back to you.
Yeah, and that you're exactly right. I've done all the homework. I've researched all that, and you're right. All of his information, all of his stuff just suddenly disappeared. You can't have free energy because everything in the world right now involves you going to work and having bills. Okay, and so remember, God is a God of plenty, a God of more than enough. Right. So in a kingdom economy, you don't need to worry about having enough because there's always enough. But in a Luciferian system, you always have to be working every single day because that's how they enslave humanity. So they've enslaved humanity by giving everybody mortgages, credit cards, and they create money out of thin air. So you're enslaved by a mortgage debt that was created out of thin air. You're enslaved by credit cards that were created out of thin air. So you're going to work every single day paying a credit card that they created out of thin air or mortgage. And this is the best part. Then they stick an interest rate on it. So like you're doubly getting screwed.
Let me explain this idea for somebody out there. I want to make sure we're very clear on this. Years ago, when I spent time with several bankers, because what happens is when you have a certain level of success, all right, this is what happens is you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. All right, that's just bottom line. And I don't care if you're reading a self-help book or you're reading Proverbs, you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. The Bible would instruct us. It says, for a companion of fools shall suffer harm. Okay. This would be the Bible. This is Proverbs. I'm going to read this to everybody. So I was reading at the time, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I was reading Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I was reading the book, Networking with Millionaires. And I recognized in order for me to take my career to the next level, I need to spend time with people that also knew how to, become a good dad. So I spent time with really good dads. Terry Fisher, a great Christian man. I spent time with him. So I wanted to learn how to be a good dad. I spent time with men who are successful in business. So I could learn how to do that. That's how I did it. But Proverbs 13:20 says, he that walketh with the wise shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. And I've started meeting a lot of bankers who own banks. And I was asking the banker, one of the bankers, I said, hey, how does the bank work? He said, Claire, let me tell you what we do. We borrow money we as a bank, this is what happens is the bank borrows money from people that don't have the money. So I go, what? He goes, we borrow money from the Federal Reserve, which isn't federal and there is no reserve. And the Federal Reserve doesn't have money, but they lend us money that we then lend to consumers. So the Federal Reserve charges us interest to let us borrow money from them that they don't have. And then we charge the consumer interest to borrow the money that we also don't have. And because it's all insured by this little placard that says insured up to $250,000, it just works. And I go, wait a minute. Does anyone have any money? He goes, no, the Federal Reserve does not have money. The Federal Reserve lends us money that they do not have. And then we lend it to you and we don't have it either. But because of the Federal Reserve, we insure it up to, and I'm going, you got to be kidding me. And I'm going, well, what would happen if everybody went to the bank and tried to withdraw the money that they brought? Now, this conversation was in 2006. A lot more people were using cash. He goes, oh, we would never have enough cash on hand. I mean, there's no bank that has these. As an example, try going to a local bank, Clay, and asking for all your cash. Like show up and ask for, $4 million or $40,000. Just show up to the bank and ask for $40,000 of cash. And Bo, they don't want to do it. And if they'll go, well, how about you do a cashier check? They go, no, I want the actual cash. They go, well, I have to talk to the manager. What's this for? It freaks them out, Bo. So it lets people understand that the Federal Reserve is not federal and there is no reserve. They are literally lending money that they don't have to banks. They don't have the money who then lend it to you at an interest. It's just, the whole thing is mind blowing. Back to you, Bo.
You're 100% right. And to add to that, that's why they have to get rid of cash. Okay. So by the end of this decade, in sooner yet, but there will be no more cash because it says in the Bible there will be a cashless society, right? And so the reason they have to get rid of the cash is because there's not enough paper money. I don't think there's enough trees in the world to make the paper money, the amount of money that they've created. That's the problem. So when there's a run on a bank, right, what's the immediate thing they do? They always say, okay, the cash withdrawal limit's $300. Okay, that's why they do that, because there's simply not enough money in the bank in terms of physical paper cash to get it to give you, to you for you to store. So that is the essence of what they've done. And because they put so many zeros now into the currency system, there literally is just not enough. So now their only solution is to get rid of paper and go digital on everything. And that's their that ends up becoming the Antichrist system, which is written about in the Bible. So that's still coming down the road, but just not yet. But I hope, but you're 100% right, Clay. That's exactly correct. To go back to a few minutes on your question, what's the average Joe going to do? So, or can do. So page 47 kind of summarize or answer that question. So the new era, what does it bring? It's going to bring new gates, new hills, right? So we're going to have a new financial system founded on God's money. So we are going to have a monetary system that's going to go back to what it was supposed to be, backed by gold and silver. So you'll be able to take a piece of silver, a coin, okay? You'll be able to go to the department store and you're going to buy something, and you're going to be able to transact in actual ounces of silver at the grocery stores or at the department stores here very soon, potentially this year or by next year. And the reason being, so how could that happen? Well, you have to understand, right now at $25 an ounce, silver doesn't have a lot of value. I tell people, people say, well, silver's heavy. I say, yeah, silver's heavy at $25 an ounce. When silver is $2,000 an ounce, it becomes very light. You get what I'm saying, right? It's all relative, right? So if 1 ounce coin is $2,500, okay, that becomes, I can put that in my pocket, no problem, right? So it's all relative, but that's what's coming. So the financial system, you'll be able to take a coin of silver, go to the department store or grocery store, and you'll be able to buy whatever you need. So people are not going to need to worry about groceries, right? Because we're going to have hyperinflation now. But like I finished on our last talk, as much as groceries are going to go up, you're not going to feel it if you've got silver, even gold, but particularly so silver and gold, because as much as gold's going to go up, silver is going to go up 7-fold. They've manipulated silver 7 times more than gold. So when gold explodes in value in the kingdom economy, silver is going to go 7 times that. That's how crazy these prices are. And then going back to page 46, go back 46, what do we talk about? Anti-gravity, right? Do you know what's going to end up being discovered? That in order to make anti-gravity, you know what you're going to need? Silver. So silver is going to become priceless. Silver, you will not be able to buy it in the stores. You won't be able, in any coin shop. No one's going to sell you silver. It'll be the thing that families have that no one talks about because it's worth so much money. It'll be the #1 asset class in the entire world that everybody wants and nobody can get. That is what's coming here for silver in the next few years because of the technology that it's going to be affiliated with silver. So as incredible and as high in value gold is going to go, silver is going to blow that away. There's one individual, that I trust in what he's been saying, and then he's saying that silver could go 1-to-1 with gold because of what's necessary for a short window of time because of the technology factor behind silver. And that's just the price of silver. Then to get it in your hand, like right now, if I want to go buy an ounce of silver, Clay, it's say $24, but I have to spend $32 just to get a silver eagle. Okay, so when silver is say $500 or $1,000 an ounce, you're going to probably spend $300 to $500 just to get the coin in your hand, because that's called the spread. So we have a kingdom economy that's coming that's going to be based on God's money, gold and silver. So page 47 says a new financial system is about to be birthed. And then that comes with a new church. So we're not going to, so you are starting the new church, Clay, you're with your conferences that you're doing. These conferences are going to head into, these soccer stadiums will be 50, 70, 80, 100,000 people worshiping Christ. That's the new church, not these small little gatherings that we have right now. So it's going to be truly, even though the Clay Clark show is huge already, but I'm saying like in these small churches, Oh, the churches are going to blow up into stadiums. So that's what's coming. We've got, the family unit's going to return, where the mom doesn't need to go to work anymore. Why? Because they've invested in precious metals and they've got more than they need because God provides more than they need. A new education system, a new government, new military, a new media. So all the media, today falls apart. CNN, all these media stations fall apart. You've got new social media, new entertainment. So the whole world, all 7 of those hills that Lance discusses fall. And then they're replaced with a new, but all of it is based, Clay, this is so important to understand. All of this is based on the fact that the dollar, the money system, the brothers of Goliath, we had Goliath of past that David killed, right? So David kills Goliath. These are the brothers of Goliath. And that was prophesied by Kim Clement, okay? The brothers of Goliath today stand in glee, okay? Because they control all 7 of those hills. And then so when God shows up, I'm telling you, we've got a historic moment coming here, April into May, Passover into the Red Sea moment, where all hell breaks loose and all glory at the same time appears. So it's going to be this historic moment in time when these gates of hell shall not prevail because Jesus Christ is about to appear. And I'm not talking about the return of Christ. He's going to appear for a short window, then go back to heaven. But that moment when he appears, it's going to literally be the flipping of the money tables. It's the writing on the wall, many, many tekel.
Where are you getting the biblical justification for saying that he will appear and then disappear?
I'm only stating that because it's like the hand of God. So someone showed up, in Daniel, many, many tekel offshore scene, right? So there's either God or Jesus showed up, someone wrote on the wall. So we're having like a moment in time like that where something's going to happen. A good friend of mine, Pastor Manuel Johnson, is a prophet. He actually had a dream just 2 weeks ago of Jesus Christ coming down. He stated, the silver and the gold are mine, and then he went back to heaven.
Last week, God gave me a divine dream, and it coincides with what you're talking about. It gives us another piece of the puzzle. In the dream, Jesus descends through the ceiling, descending. He's wearing this wonderful robe. He only says one thing: the gold and the silver is mine. He says one thing. I mean, with authority, he starts to ascend through the ceiling back to heaven. Right after about 5 seconds or more or less, all of a sudden, gold started to appear.
With let's say 10 minutes left to go on today's program, we're going to go into bow speed. We're going to bow speed here, folks.
Okay,
so I'm going to let you go 90 miles.
Yeah, so actually the really important part here is, Clay, shoot all the way back, go to page 14, because page 14 is going to really, this is the newest stuff that I got. And I want to show you this because this lines up beautifully with what I believe is about to happen here. So I've just discussed Passover. Okay, so we know Passover ends on the 23rd. 24th is when Israel is released. 20 days to get to the Red Sea. Red Sea closes May 14th. Now check this math out. This is like, there's nothing in the Bible and in the Torah. It's written. There's no such thing as a coincidence, Clay. Okay, it's actually not kosher to use the word coincidence if you're Jewish. Okay, because everything is of God, right? God, he set the stage. God writes the end of the story, like Daniel. He wrote a 2,500 year story, but he wrote it at the beginning. He wrote it, but God gave him the story. 2,500 years. We've seen every single kingdom come down so far, or come to life so far. We haven't seen the fall of Babylon. We haven't seen the fall of that statue that was described by Daniel. So now let's talk. Since we're here, we're going to look at page 14. Kim Clement said Trump will be a trumpet. He ties directly into end times. Everything about Trump ties in with the number 7. But so let's go from the birth of Trump. So he was born June 14th, 1946. Page 14, left-hand side. Okay. If you want 700 days, not almost, Clay, but exactly, Israel was proclaimed a state on May 14th, 1948. Okay, that's not a coincidence. That's by God's design. Okay. Then I was on your show the other day, and we talked about the prophecy of Cyrus. And that was Isaiah 44 and Isaiah 45. I know just like last week you had Lance Wallno on your show as well, and he was referencing the prophecy of Cyrus versus Trump. Okay, so he's 100% correct. Isaiah 45 finishes with a very important part. It says, he will rebuild my cities and set my exiles free. Set my exiles free is called a jubilee. Okay, that's basically relieving people from bondage, getting them out of bondage. On page 14, so we've got the prophecy, Isaiah 44, 45. How incredible is that? But from May 14th, 1948, Israel is pronounced a state, proclaimed a state, Clay, 70 years to the exact day. Not even like off by a day.
Wow.
The U.S. Embassy opens. So Trump opens a U.S. embassy in Jerusalem on May 14th. So this is where it gets interesting. This is what I got just the other day. So I'm playing with the math, and I'm like, hey, well, now we got May 14th coming, because we just talked about that in this presentation today, how that relates to the Red Sea moment, May 14th, 2022.
Right.
So starting at May 14th, 1948, Clay, 888 months. You see it in red there?
Yep.
Not even almost. Clay, exactly 888 months.
Oh my gosh.
Is May 14th, 2022, the Red Sea moment. So then I did a little more research. Okay, so let's number 8. What is 8? The number 8 in the Bible is a number of Jesus. So that's the number for Jesus, whose name in Greek adds up to 888. Number 8 represents a new beginning.
Oh.
So all I can tell you is we're supposed to have all hell break loose starting in April. My cycles show that those do not have gold and silver by April are going to be missing out the opportunity, because what's coming is the greatest financial event in human history. You read Proverbs 13:20, but Proverbs 13:22 states the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Okay, so we're about to see the wealth of the sinner, literally these trillions of dollars that they've created, and all these Bill Gateses, okay, all of their money is going to be taken from them this year, and it is stored up for the righteous, stored up for God's church. That money is going to be transferred into God's church, and that supposed to start, I believe, on Passover as it ends. So as in latter part of April, and then with and there's going to be one final attack. Okay, so where the United States has to fall, so it's going to look ugly. This is not going to be all happy, happy, joy, joy, Clay. This is going to be ugly, okay? Because this is a battle. These are the clash of the titans. This is literally God taking on Satan here. We're going to have a huge battle. Something big's about to go down April into May. And I mean big, okay? The earth is going to shake. Something huge is going to happen. And then at the end, God comes out the victor. But there's going to be a window of time like Lazarus. Lazarus was dead in the tomb for 4 days and everybody was crying, okay? Lazarus died and Jesus waited 4 days. And so there's going to be a window of time here where I think the world's going to be dark. We're going to like, what the heck? Why did God just do this to us? But we're going to come to realize that there is a God. This moment in time is going to be the glory, and it's going to shake the earth. Something's going to happen so intense, Clay, that the world will wake up. Not everybody, because not everybody wants to wake up, but we're going to have a huge, huge, huge awakening that's about to happen here, April into May, potentially May. And then when this huge awakening comes, the world's going to wake up to the truth. And then all these things that you're doing, Clay, with your show, all these truths are going to start to just pile out and pile out and pile, and everything gets exposed. But 45 Trump, he cannot return, okay, until my best guess would be when the Red Sea closes. So he's going to be like Moses leading Israel on the other side of the sea, which is not until May 14th. So the new era doesn't officially begin on Earth until May 14th. Go ahead, Clay.
It's absolutely mind rocking your research. It is I just encourage everybody, if you haven't gone to timetofreeamerica.com/gold 2020, you got to download this report. It is so powerful. Even if you disagree with the conclusions you're making, just the exercise of reading the Bible and referencing all of the verses that you're referencing is powerful. Back to you, Bo.
This is the other part I wanted to add. So now from May 14th of 2022, we're going to layer in Daniel's timeline because we know we're in end times. So we're going to layer in the Daniel's timeline. And this is where it gets interesting, because I know repetitively, Clay, I listen to your show. I listen to many of your viewers that you put on your show. Many of them talk about, the mark of the beast, or they're talking about end times. They're talking about
the Great Reset.
The Great Reset, right? So you constantly are referencing the Great Reset. But this is what I want to explain to you from a biblical standpoint and also from a timing standpoint. Okay. So what they've done, they've come early. Really important is that they came early. And so they're about to die, be destroyed, be thrown out. When May hits, these people all fall for the next 3.5 years. If you look at the cycle there, right? So starting May 14th, 2022, for the next 3.5 years, that is basically what's happening there. That is the seeds you have sown. So if you've sown seeds, Clay, by planting seeds into God's kingdom, by buying precious metals, by preaching the word of God, by putting on big conferences, seminars to wake up people to the truth, your ministry will be, what you have sown, that shall you reap. So your ministry, what you're doing, is going to blow up like crazy, Clay, in a fantastic perspective because of what you've been doing. On the other side of the coin, the evil ones, they've planted evil seeds. They want that to happen to us, and God's going to turn the tables on them and make it happen to them. So for the next 3.5 years, we have an opportunity here of historic proportions where things are going to be truly, truly biblical, and we're going to see God's money explode like you've never seen over these next 3.5 years. And that takes us to 2025. And that's when I believe we're going to start to see the start of end times. And so, and that mean like the lab potentially could be the beginning there, and that we might see a peace treaty signed there in 2025. That would then lead us 3.5 years forward, and then that takes us to the mark in the end of this decade. So that's potentially how this is lining up, and then that lines up with page 15, because anybody can Google this with the United Nations, the Agenda 2030. So it's the agenda for the 2030 Agenda for Sustained Development. So that's in 2030. So the Antichrist kingdom is expected to begin the end of this decade, and that's when the mark potentially is supposed to come out.
Bo, what is your website if people want to learn more about you?
Gold 2020, the year 2020, and then forecast.
One more time, somebody's taking notes right there, specifically me. It's Gold 2020 forecast.
Yes, .com. Gold 2020 forecast.com.
My brain is exploding right now. So powerful. Bo, I appreciate you carving out time to be here with our listeners. Final 30 seconds, sir. What's the final word you want to share with everybody out there listening who's taking notes, who's going to be downloading your PDF and really interacting with this content?
The closing thing is, this is going to be one of the greatest time points in human history. We are privileged. We are born for such a time as this. We are going to witness something truly historic go down here in the next few months. We're basing February, March, April, and May. So within the next 3.5 months, all I know is that February is going to be truly crazy. This month, we're going to start seeing things go down potentially around, something could happen around the 20th. That's another key time point that takes us into Passover, then takes us into May. And so we have the greatest event, one of the greatest events in human history, the greatest financial event in human history. Proverbs 13:22 is expected to occur this year. So my closing word would be prepare. Have you bought God's money, gold and silver? Because blessings are coming to those who prepared.
Bo, you, my friend, are a great American. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. Again, that's Bo Polney. You'll see him on the Reawaken America tour as his schedule allows. Bo, I really do appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you in Ohio.
God bless you, Clay.
Take care, brother. Bye. I thought you deserved to know the lineup for Ohio that we have confirmed so far. So I'm going to read off the confirmed speakers for Ohio. Then we'll let you get back to doing whatever you're doing. One, we have an esteemed team of snowman makers. No, we don't have that. We have Pastor Greg Locke. We have Dr. Zelenko. We have Dr. Stella Emanuel. We have the Iowa Mama Bears. Roger Stone, David and Stacy Whited, Ian Smith, J.P. Sears, Pastor Phil Hotzenpiller, Brian Festa, the attorney, Thomas Renz, the attorney. These are attorneys fighting back. We have Pastor Bill Cook. We have Dr. Janice Schmidt, the prophet Amanda Grace, Pastor Dave Scarlett, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Jim Brewer, Lance Wallnow, Marjorie Taylor Green, Mark Burns, Donna Clement, Kim Clement's daughter, Eric Trump, Brooke McGowan, General Flynn, Pastor Greg Locke, Gene Ho, Bo Polney, There's 67 speakers. It's a next level event. So go to timetofreeamerica.com, request your tickets.
This is a time to choose. We have to be focused on the Word of God. That's why the Word of God is so important. We need to make that our most important thing every day. You think to yourself, how could people be fooled? How could you go off this way? How could you go off that way? Because they're not in the living Word of God every single day. That is our blueprint. That is our guide point. That is our only doctrine.